Hello, everyone. Welcome into episode 3 of the Four Quarters podcast powered by Four Quarters Media. I'm your host, Tyler Bennett, with you once again. This is part 1 of 3 in episode 3 in season 2 of the podcast. Episode 1, last week's CCAA episode, had 3 interviews. This week is no different. In part 1, which you hear right now, will feature Capilano Blues men's basketball head coach Cassidy Kannemeyer. Part number 2, which will follow right after this, will feature Lambton Lions guard, forward, whatever he wants to be on a given day, Mason Hyde. And then part 3, to wrap it all up and round out the hat trick, is University of Toronto Mississauga Eagles guard Janella Viato. She rounds out a talent-packed episode of the Four Quarters podcast. Starting off the top, before we get into anything, into the episode, into the parts, all 3 of these interviews were recorded between June 4th and 6th. So Thursday to Saturday. Some of the conversations do center around the potential of a season in 2020-21, what COVID could do to that season. So if any news breaks Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the conversations may be a bit dated. So forewarning now, we do discuss what the seasons could look like in all 3 episodes, or all 3 parts of episode 3. If anything does change, they may be a bit dated. So apologies in advance, but the conversations are great nonetheless. And starting off with Coach Kannemeyer at Capilano was a fantastic conversation. We learned a bit about some projects he's working on from a CCAA historical standpoint, without giving too much away. That's off the top. We look at the Blues season in 2019-2020, learned a lot about what they had to go through from a personnel standpoint with injuries, players leaving for different reasons, practice struggles where they had 9 guys, freshmen in different roles. That's a big list of challenges to overcome, and get a bit of his understanding and his perspective of where things kind of went wrong or went off the rails a bit. They did finish 5-13, so they tied for 5th in the Pac West. They hosted this year the Pac West tournament. Tough way to go out against Okanagan. 2-point loss after leading by 13 after the first quarter, 25-12. Ended up falling 84-82 to the Coyotes. You'll hear Coach Kannemeyer touch on it as well. Eric Marbury at Okanagan College is a fantastic guard, and they knew that at some point he was going to have an impact, and he touches on that as well. So without giving too much away, we look at their recruiting class so far, which is just a one-man class, but he gives some insight into how he's approached the offseason and recruiting with COVID playing a big role in not being able to see high school players or what have you, and how he's kind of more focused on the transfers, if you will, from the Pac West, U Sports, other leagues in Canada. He gave a bit on his approach to recruiting. And we took a look back as well. We took a trip down memory lane, talked about a guy you should be familiar with in Denver, Sparks Guest, kind of what he meant to the program in his 2 seasons, former All-Canadian, 2-time first-team All-Star in the Pac West. We just shone a light on what Capilano was about, what they have done, what they're doing, what Coach Kannemeyer is doing, and what their roster could look like next year, like we said, with his recruiting class, and how he's gone about that new look approach with the world the way it is these days. So with that in mind, again, we do talk about the season. It may be dated by the time this comes out. Apologies in advance. But with that in mind, let's jump right in. Part 1 of episode 3 in season 2 of the Four Quarters podcast, powered by Four Quarters Media, with Capilano Blues men's basketball head coach Cassidy Kannemeyer. Enjoy. All right, I'm now pleased to be joined by Capilano Blues men's basketball head coach Cassidy Kannemeyer. Cassidy, first off, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to do this. How are things with you?
Things are going pretty good, Tyler. We've, in terms of, what we're dealing with the social unrest down south, and now here in Canada. Last night we had a Zoom meeting with the team to talk about the issues. Obviously, like everybody on our, in our program, understands what's happening. So it wasn't so much about that. It was about what, we talked about what you can do in your future to create positive change in your family, your community, and really, like my wife and I talk about this a lot. How are you going to affect positive change in small little pieces? So that can take you to bigger things if you start really small. Because if you start too big, I feel like, when people try to fix a gigantic problem like the one we're seeing, that can be very overwhelming, and it's very important to stay small, stay local, and then you can really expand from that as you gain experience. And then with COVID, I mean, we were talking earlier, like I'm back to work. There's no kids in the building. There's hardly any kids in the building. Because my second job is I work at a secondary school as a teacher's assistant. But we've been working. The support staff here at Britannia, we've been 3-4 days a week, distributing laptops, distributing food. Well, we weren't distributing food, but there has been food distribution. And so we've been working during COVID. And when I was on spring break, when COVID was happening, I was starting the research for a CCAA book. So that's something that's in the works.
Oh, it's a little teaser. Okay.
Yeah, a little teaser for the podcast.
I like it.
The research that I was doing was, possible themes for chapters in the book. Like I was looking at Olga's career. Like, wow, what a phenomenal coaching career that she had. And I got some great people to talk about, her impact. And it's been a couple months since I started researching this, but Dawson, I believe, right? She's at Dawson.
So yeah, I'm blanking on it too. Now you bring it up. Yeah,
I think it's Dawson. But anyways, her career is unreal, and we don't celebrate her. I mean, they might celebrate her back east, but out west, I had no idea. So I was doing some research with that, and then creating a top 100 list, which was really fun because I had to make really strict kind of requirements, baseline, how many all-stars, how many all-Canadians, how many, all-stars in the provincial championship, all-star in the CCAA championship. So that was really fun. It's just scratching the surface of a really big kind of lifetime project that I was always wanting to do. And I had a bit of time when COVID started. And thank goodness that no one in my family and people that are around me were affected. Like, I'm very fortunate. We are very fortunate to be in British Columbia, where the numbers have never been astronomically high. I feel, with all the things happening, I feel very fortunate and blessed. And it's tricky, but we've been navigating over here.
It is. I think that's the thing. Like, everything is just happening one after another. And like you said, with the social unrest and the battles down south with racism, and like you said, it's just small steps to kind of fix the big problem. And like, I've spent most of my time reading and learning and trying to understand what people are going through, because as a white male, I've never experienced it. And I can't even begin to fathom a thought of what people are going through. So trying to educate myself as best I can to, like you said, make those small changes to help fix the bigger problem. And with COVID,
that's a great start.
And with COVID, like, I think, like you said, BC's had low numbers, out east has had low numbers. We're the problem in Ontario. I think we kind of ruined it for everybody else in Canada.
It's because you have more people.
It's true. And it's now seems to be a GTA focused problem, because that's where most of the people are.
Right.
So I feel like we should take some of the blame for that. So as a collective whole, apologize for that a little bit. But the CCAA book, I think that's interesting. And the top 100 there'd be a lot of people on that list. It'd be tough to trim it down.
It's very difficult. I interviewed, I think, 30 people. So I got I got just a great list of people and it's not finished yet. It's not even close. Like I'm not close,
Mm-hmm.
but I got so much great input on the game, the history of the game, from some amazing people that have, you know, dedicated their lives. Right. And when you get those stories, you're so fortunate to hear the stories. Cause as coaches, we're obvious, like as a coach, like all coaches are so dedicated to their craft and so dedicated to the kids that, you know, like this is a huge part of our lives. Like I'm only a part-time employee at Capilano, but like you know, it feels like I'm a full-time employee in the sense of how I am committed to what we're doing. Right. And the book is a reflection of like me not understanding the history and wanting to take that deep dive into the history of the game and the history of the league and celebrate just how great it is. Right. Like for me, when I first started at Quest University, I remember thinking like, how did I miss out on this in my 20s, you know, my early 20s? How did I not go watch games on the weekend at Langara or Capilano or Douglas? And what the heck was I doing? Like, and so for me, it's really unfortunate because like I live close to Langara. So like I could have went and watched Randy Knorr and Aaron Mitchell play with under Kevin Hansen in these teams that, you know, now it's like I look back and I remember, you know, we have summer tournaments over here, men's tournaments and women's tournaments, but like, you know, on the men's side, Randy Knorr and every year wins the men's tournament for like the last 15 years. And you're like, wow, this guy's amazing. Where did you know? And as you're doing research for the book, you're like, holy crap. Like this guy won 2 provincial high school championships, 2 CCAA national championships, and then 2 U Sports national championships with St. FX. And it's like, that means in 7 years of basketball, you won 6 championships.
Yeah.
That's
well, a lot of people wouldn't have any idea probably who he is,
I know.
let alone the story behind him and the success he's had. And that's the thing, I think, with the book and the list. And like you said, growing up, you don't know why you didn't go to these games. I guarantee you not a lot of people know about the history of it. And I think shedding some light on that with your book idea and the list would be huge for the game.
Thank you. I agree. And I you know, it comes from reading the Bill Simmons book of basketball. Like, you know, I read that book and I was like, this is great. What a great idea. Like to write make a top 100 list that's up for debate. And like for all the lifers like us that love U Sports and love the CCAA, you know, this is a great way to celebrate those guys. And especially like a lot of the guys in the top 100 list, I don't want to give any spoilers, but, you know, a lot of them transferred, right? A lot of those guys transferred onto U Sports and had amazing careers at the U Sports level, especially like the CJEP guys. And, you know, when I'm getting deep diving on that research and I was started to really narrow it down with all the statistical achievements of these players, and I was talking to, you know, people that were in the game for 30 years, 20 years, and I was listing off, you know, the list. I wasn't getting a lot of arguments. They're like, oh yeah, I can see him there, you know, like kind of. So I think it's pretty comprehensive. But I'm an optimist at heart. So I mean, maybe they're just being nice to me, and they were like, okay, well, this guy's crazy.
They wait till you leave, and then they just rip it apart after you're gone.
Tear it apart, and then you know, they won't buy the book, and even though I give them a free copy, they'll tear it up. West Coast bias, right?
When I was growing up, worked at a hockey arena, and I worked with a guy named Sean Ostrom, who was a big hockey historian, had a similar list to what you did, but with all-time hockey players. And he was in a group of like 12 guys that did an all-time draft. Any year, any year at all you wanted to go with. I think that could, like you said, with your top 100 list, could do something like that, get 10 people together, 10 historians, and do an all-time CCAA draft, pick any 10 players.
It's awesome. It's a great idea.
That'd be fun. I think you would be a lot of research in to figure out who you want to take, but you'd have free reign of anybody for however long the league's been around.
Well, I tell you, with the CCAA top 100, I feel like there is no consensus number one.
Yeah.
But I'm going to pick one. But
Okay.
there is no consensus number one. So in the first round, unlike a fantasy football draft, like
Hmm.
there's a lot of different ways you can go. I'll tell you that.
And that's what makes those lists fun. When there's no
Yeah,
consensus one, you can have debates for
absolutely.
hours and make a
Absolutely.
case for 10, 12, 15 guys, and you're not wrong, essentially, at the end of the day.
Yeah, you can't go wrong. There's if you had 10 guys, there's definitely 10
Hmm.
franchise players start a program. I mean, that
Hmm.
was one thing I really enjoyed about it was, when you're making a list like that, you want to really value winning, and
Hmm.
some of the great winners of the league. I really enjoyed finding those great winners, because
Hmm.
it wasn't not every guy was a multiple all Canadian. Some
Hmm.
guys were like, multiple national all stars. Like those
Hmm.
guys, to me, like on the biggest stage, and your team wins a national title, and every year you go to nationals, you're an all star. Like
Hmm.
that, in that era, that means you were one of the top 5
Hmm.
players of that era. So I
Yep.
mean, that's stuff I really enjoyed researching. As I was doing it, because there's not a lot of stuff out there. There is
No.
a book,
Hmm.
which I've haven't read all of it yet, but there's mostly it's just online work. So
Okay. What's the book called if people want to check it out?
um,
If you have it on
I'll,
top of your head.
no, I'll have to send it to you. It's
Okay.
a former I think it's OUA president that
Okay.
wrote a book about the historiography of the CCAA, like how its inception,
Okay.
or it's like its birth.
Okay.
Who are all the
Mm.
people involved, and it's
Hmm.
very like linear in the sense of, on this date this happened, on this date this happened. These
Okay.
people sat at this table and made this decision. Like it's that
Oh.
kind of book.
Hmm.
Yeah,
That'd
yeah,
be
very
that'd be
very
interesting to
well.
read.
It is. It's very interesting.
I'll have to keep that in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Looking at this year for you guys, didn't go as planned, I would say. 5-13, tied for fifth in the regular season standings. You guys had 7 losses by single digits, so the record could have been easily
500. I would
four,
say
yeah,
500. Yeah.
better improved. Like 3 games are by 3 points, so you
Right.
switch those 3 around, you're 8-10, and looks a lot different on the surface. Kind of just want to get your overall thoughts on the year and how you thought it played out and how the guys performed and just kind of how you thought the year went.
Well, it was the perfect storm. I mean, it was one of those years where I usually over recruit. It was one of those years I was like, okay, I got 15 and it's good. It's a good 15 and I'm going to leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
And right before the season started, Moesa Thaya went back to Langara.
Yep.
And we know he's a first team all-star in the league. Excellent. 6'7".
Yep.
Play him at the 3, play him at the 4, like versatile guard.
Mm-hmm.
So he commits to us, which I announce via, social media. And
Mm-hmm.
then right before the season starts, he decides he wants to go back to Langara. Okay. So he was one of those guys I penciled in as like someone I could really rely on.
Yeah.
Brennan Bailey, going into his 5th year, took the year off right before the season started,
Okay.
for financial reasons.
Mm-hmm.
As these kids move on in their careers, like that, one thing that all the listeners need to understand, a lot of these kids incur costs.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have full scholarships for these guys, and
Right.
and with Brennan's case, like he couldn't afford to play anymore with some of the scholarship money that he did get or didn't get.
Mm-hmm.
I had to get him work in the summer, and it just wasn't working for his current climate. And
Yep.
Losing 2 starters right before the season, it was like, okay, well, we can withstand this because we have Martin Bogajev and Sam Bailey coming in second semester.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can just go 500, the first part of the season, or like 2 and 4, I was thinking,
Yep.
we will be in okay shape. And
Yep.
and what ends up happening is we get injuries. CJ Campbell hurts his ankle when we go
Yep.
play University of Fraser Valley. And it looks like a devastating injury, like the way he fell, and player kind of rolls up on his knees. So we thought it was his knee at first, but it was like a bad high ankle sprain.
Okay.
And really, really sabotaged his whole season. Like he was never moving at the same way after that. He gets hurt. Amir Rajwani, our rookie from Carson Graham, got hurt same time as CJ. Okay. So like, young rookie, now he has to play because Brennan's gone, Moise is gone. Now Amir's in this position where it's like, boom, you're going to have to play right away. And then he gets hurt. So that derails his learning for about a month. And for all the people listening, like if you're a rookie in the college league or in the youth sports league and you miss a month where you're hurt and you don't get those live reps in, and it's the age too, right? They're 18 years old. They're not paying attention all the time. So like, and in September, you're installing so much stuff, and coming from a high school program, like you don't get that kind of intake in your brain. And so like you're not experienced getting, okay, well today we're doing press attack, like press attack in high school is give the ball to the best player and get the hell out of the way, right? Like that's press attack in high school. Maybe against the in BC, the highest level of high school basketball, you might have to have a press attack, but any other level, it's like give it to that guy and just run up the floor. He'll just dribble through everybody. So like, for Amir, like for a whole month, he's on the sidelines on the bike, learning what he's supposed to do just when you're injured. And like, that's enough learning for him because he's also taking, his first year of university classes. So, I mean, he's swimming. CJ's hurt. He's out. We got 10 guys at practice. And then another freshman, Marco, that played at Alpha Secondary, was adamant about coming, and then boom, he quits. So it's like another guard that quits. So it's like now we're decimated. Now we're playing threes, ones.
Oh boy.
We're trying to install things 5-on-0. You install things 5-on-0. What do guys do? They shortcut everything. So the bottom line is, you want to say you can't make excuses for the record, but there's actual things that happen, like a domino effect of all those things, and that leads to us having the poor record. Period.
When it rains, it pours. When one happens, and it's like you said, domino effect, and then the storm rolls in, and before you know it, you got 9 guys that are healthy, and it's
a nightmare.
You just got to try and stay afloat as long as you can. Just try and tread water and don't drown.
Well, I thank my wife, Melanie Mark, who's, she's a cabinet minister here for our provincial government.
Okay.
The first First Nations woman ever elected in British Columbia.
Oh, okay. And
she's got a very intense plate of work that she has to deal with on a daily basis. Thank God she stayed with me through that this past year. Like, what an amazing woman. Like I can't imagine what I was like to deal with on a daily basis.
When another domino falls and it comes home to the dinner table or whatever, and you come in the door angry, I think a lot of the wives and spouses don't get enough credit for putting up with whatever comes home.
Well, silence. That's what she dealt with. A lot of silence.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Right. How you feeling today? Well, I'm good. Like you just try to internalize it and keep it away from the family. But that in itself has an effect.
Yeah.
But that's what I would say. That's what I would attribute the season to. And when you have less live reps in practice and less competitive edge in practice. Well, where do we falter as a unit? When it's, when the game's on the line and there's those critical situations, you don't execute the way other teams do that have the players to work on that live round execution in practice. And so all those close games are products of us not being able to finish games with execution. Like we're not able to execute offensively or defensively when it mattered. I can think of one instant where we played Langara and it's a tie game. It's a sideline out of bounds. I literally draw what Paul Eberhardt's going to run on our board. I'm saying he's going to run some sort of flash with a back screen, and someone's going to flash, take your attention away, and he's going to set a back screen for someone at a lob at the rim because there's only 0.6 seconds left, like Derek Fisher type seconds left. And enough time to catch and shoot, but most likely something's going to happen at the rim. So I'm like, okay, well, whatever back screen happens, make sure you switch. Make sure you switch that. What do? We go out. We basically screen ourselves.
Oh boy!
And Tyler Anderson, who now is at VIU, God bless Tyler, but like he can't jump more than 24 inches. Like he's not an explosive athlete, but he has enough time because we screen each other, like we're banging into each other, and Tyler just beautiful layup right at the rim, finishes us off for the win, and Langara celebrates like they've won a championship because it's like, oh my gosh, like what a miracle! Like how does that even happen? It's like
it's just
that's our year in a microcosm.
I was going to say that sums up the year pretty well. Just guys are falling, injuries, leaving the team, and then close games. You screen yourselves, and that's all she wrote. That's
film session on Monday was fun.
I can only imagine. I can only imagine.
This year we lost to Columbia Bible College, who was in the last 3 years have been very competitive, but they're not winning. Like Rod Adrian, the head coach there, has done a remarkable job of getting those guys, within the I'd say like the parameters of what he can recruit. He's done an excellent job, and so those guys play so hard. And this year, like we say it every year, like we actually have to like really scout hard, CBC hard, because you don't want to lose to them, right? You should beat them, but they can beat you, and if you have an off night, they're going to beat you. And this year they beat us, and credit goes to them because they, like, in that game they outworked us, out executed us, everything. And it was like, this, when you have injuries and you don't have anything, if the bench gives you no lift, and the X's and O's, they run out of steam. You can't press with 8 guys. No. And it's like there's nothing you can do. And it's, as a coach, it's a very helpless feeling. I'll just say that, it's a very helpless Tyler. Because
you can only do so much behind the scenes, and it's up to them on the floor. And
that's right.
You see all the work and practice and all you try to do, and it's just falls a little bit short. And you just like you said, guys are screening themselves. I can only imagine what was going through your mind. Just kind of, I don't know. It's just,
I saw red. That was
the guys. You saw red. The guys run away and try and hide, and just try to avoid eye contact at film session on Monday.
Well, as a coach too, when you're in a season that's a losing season, you're not lying to them. I want to make sure no one understands that. You're telling them the truth, but you're saying it in a way that's a constructive way, because as a group we were making tremendous strides. Every game I could clip sequences of defense that were better than any years I've coached at Cap. I could clip rebounding sequences that were better than any years I coached at Cap. Some of the offensive stuff that we did last year, like we ran some really like more secondaries than we've ran in the past, like me trying to be a little bit creative with the personnel, and execution was excellent. The ball sharing was excellent. The ball did not go in the basket, unfortunately. Like when we say execution as a coach, like we really mean like, did the ball go in or did it not? And when the ball doesn't go in, you can draw up anything you want. It doesn't matter. It's all for naught if you can't put the biscuit in the basket.
Biscuit in the basket. Yeah, it's how you win. And if it doesn't fall in, it's gonna make it a lot tougher. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
You mentioned like the close games and the execution late game. I hate to bring up provincials. I know it was
the same thing. It's a
way to go out.
Yeah, it was a microcosm of our season. Like the narrative in our locker room was, we just got to make playoffs because no one wants to play us. We're hosting provincials. Everybody knows that we haven't been healthy. Everybody knows that every year we're a threat. Everybody knows that we have talent that works hard, and we have smart players, and no one wants to play us. And credit to Okanagan College for never giving up, but we were rolling them in the first round of the playoffs. And like, I was literally, before I came on with you, I was talking to one of my colleagues and saying, I'm not even able to watch it yet. Like, I can't watch it because that was such a lock. Like we had that game locked away. And, one of the big things I preached all week before we played them was how good Marbury was becoming. Eric Marbury, their point guard at Okanagan College. Like, I was saying, like, he's really coming into his own. We have to take him out. And I showed them like the 3 things that he does really well. And the last thing that he does really well is if you don't find him when you're inbounding, he will steal the ball.
Yeah.
And that was the play that changed the tides, because it was so, the guys are laughing in film. Like, we're not going to turn over the inbound pass. Like, we don't turn over inbound passes. And I'm like, well, I'm telling you right now, one play a game, Eric steals the ball in the inbound.
Yep.
And Nathan Bromage, who, going to University of Toronto, transferring this year, has had a very good career for us, has developed every year, gotten better. Nathan Bromage, first playoff game against Camosun 3 years ago, he turns the ball over on an inbound to Ish. I can't remember Ish's last name, but he played at Camosun College. And Ish did the same thing to him. And then Nathan, same thing in the playoff game against Okanagan College. He runs the inbound. He doesn't use his fundamentals, which is ball overhead. Okay. He eyes down his target, doesn't find Marbury, turnover to Marbury, and 1 layup.
Jeez. So history repeated itself for Nathan a bit there. The nightmare came back.
Yeah. And I'll tell you right now, as a former athlete myself, and with Nathan, like, I would just say to the coach of University of Toronto, don't get Nathan to inbound because he's got the yips, man. I'll tell you that right now. There's no way he could ever successfully inbound the ball again after that.
Hopefully he's learned to fundamentals, overhead, or not stare down your target, because chances are the guy you've locked eyes with for 5 seconds, that's who you're going to.
Exactly. And I'm joking a bit with Nathan, but I do truthfully, and Nathan would agree with me, when he goes to University of Toronto, you're not in charge of, you're not doing inbounding. And I've actually changed it in my season plan for this upcoming season. We're going to have the guards doing the inbounding from now on. No more. My 4-man is not inbounding the ball anymore. That is over. I am done with it.
Give it to the guys that take care of the ball more often than the 4s.
I like my trail posts. Like I learned under Sean Shook, and that's the way Sean liked to do it. He liked to 4-man trail post, inbound the ball. Your best handling big, taller guy stays over the defense. No, I'm done. I'm done with that.
Back to the guards.
Yeah. Guards are doing it. I might even have the 1 do it.
First 2 practices for Nathan at Toronto should just be all inbounds. Just 2 hands overhead until he gets it right. Guys are running lines every time he gets it wrong. That might get me in trouble.
Nathan would be all for it. Nathan's a great team guy, and will do anything to make the team better. So I mean, there's some guys you can't make fun of. I can make fun of Nathan in this instance for sure.
Yeah, and hopefully he can give it back a little bit too, and it helps that relationship go a little bit stronger.
He's got lots of ammunition on me.
I can only imagine the stories that any players have with their coaches. I can only imagine the back and forth, the inside jokes. You hear some of them, you hear snippets of them here and there, and I die laughing at those. I can only imagine the full story behind them. I wouldn't be able to keep a straight face ever.
Well, think about it, right? You're with these guys more than your family, right? Like you're with them so much, and I've heard a lot of coaches on your podcast talk about, it's a relationship business, right? And we're in the business of trying to improve young men's lives, young women's lives, and help them become university graduates and become successful human beings. And that's what we're in the business of. If that helps us win games, great. But ultimately, like my athletic director, Milt Williams, will say, like, we want to have these guys have a great student experience. And I'll tell you right now, that's saved my job for sure after this past season, because, in a tough year, we still had we still enjoyed each other every day.
That's the main
right?
thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, with film sessions tough. Like there was some moments where in film session where I said to Michael Kelly, like, Mike, if you don't affect the ball handler anymore, I can't play. Like just stuff like these guys take so much crap from me, but like I think that having having that sort of positive outlook of like we're really building, we're changing, we are getting better. Like they did have a good year, but as competitors, we failed.
Yeah. And like you said, all the feedback, it's constructive, and at the end of the day, it comes from a good place because you want them to be the best student athletes as they can, and that's why student comes first over athletes. Like you said, do you want to have the best student experience possible and put them in a position to succeed when basketball is over or when they're away. They're out of university in the real adult world, which isn't that fun, but it is what it is, and you want to have them in the best position to succeed, and they know it comes from a good place, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, and you got to treat it as a coach that's running a program. Like basketball is not the main part of the program. Like it is their experience with campus life, with extracurricular, volunteerism, what they're doing in their summers. Are they coaching other, we'll go back to Nathan Bromage, who's, we can talk about him because he's gone now, but like with Nathan, like he gives back to the community, right? He coaches for Dynamite basketball, and coaches, U14s and coaches camps, and then some of my guys like Denver Sparks guest would come and coach with me in summer times, coach camps. Brendan Bailey's coach camps with me. Lots of my players have coached with me in the summer, and that's they're getting paid, but they're also like making massive impact and strides working with young kids who, for them it's a big deal to meet a college athlete and to hear what it's like being a student athlete and how hard it can be, right? And that's a big message for kids that are 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 that have those aspirations. So I think like our guys do a great job of being leaders on campus, leaders in the classroom. We had a very good team GPA this year. I think that was I think it was my best in my 5 years. So that's a big win.
Yeah, it's a good start.
That's a good start. Didn't translate to real wins, but
it's all right.
They're winning in life.
It's a building block to go for next year.
It is totally 100%. The core of the team is very good in the classroom. Yeah. And so that's the thing. Like we're not just teaching X's and O's, right? We have to encourage and promote and guide these young men and young women to be well-rounded individuals.
Yep. You mentioned Denver, 2-time first-team All-Star, CCAA All-Canadian, had 465 points in 2018-19, which is a Capilano single-season record, averaged 25.6 points a game, one of the best scorers in the country that didn't get enough attention. I think, again, it ties back to your CCAA book, which the CCAA doesn't get enough attention as it is overall, top to bottom. What did he mean to the program in his 2 years?
I think the genesis of that recruitment, like I recruited Denver out of high school when he was one of the best players in high school, and I recruited him to Quest University. It was never on the table. Like he heard it, but like he was never going to go to Quest. But when he went to SFU, I always checked up on him, not to recruit him, but to see how he was doing, because I say this with a lot of respect to Denver. Denver's player type is like perfectly suited to be a CCAA scorer. Like he is undersized as a 4-man at the U Sports level, which is his natural position, I think. And when he played the wing, he's too slow to play the wing defensively. And he'll hate me for saying this, but that's why he didn't get, I think, the playing time and the opportunity that he needed at the U Sports level, D2 level. Because he's such a great 4. Like he's a great 4-man. And so what we did in his senior season is we created an area on the floor that's called the office. And I learned about it by watching Carmelo Anthony.
Okay. Yep.
And with Carmelo Anthony, like, you know, when he was in his Denver days, they used to put him around the high post,
Yep.
the just near the low post,
Mhm.
and that was an area where I really felt like Denver was elite, like
Yep.
elite, like at any level, U
Mhm.
Sports, whatever. Because at the U Sports level, if he was playing the 4, he would have a quickness advantage.
Mhm.
And at the CCAA level, it was like he was unstoppable. Like you had to double team him.
Mhm.
Because in that area, his face-up game was so unreal. Because he's like old school that way. He's like an Alex English
Mhm.
throwback forward, where you know like in the old NBA, they used to run lots of floppy action, and their 3-man was really like a 4-man now.
Mhm.
And their 3-man, like Alex English, would come off these little curls and then isolate in that elbow area, T-post area.
Mhm.
And that's really what the vision was. And I had to
Okay.
kind of had to talk to him in the off season and say, hey, like, I don't think the 3 is the right position for you. Like,
Mhm.
you're good at coming off ball screens, but like, I think if we put you in this area in the office,
Mhm.
you could really do some serious damage. And he's
Okay.
super strong. Like, his lower body is really, really strong, and he's got great length.
Yep.
For a guy that's 6'5", like I think he's got a 6'8", 6'9" wingspan.
Jeez.
So he's unstoppable down there at that level.
Yep.
And so I think it was the convincing him that this was the best thing for him,
Mhm.
and then to his credit, the buy-in. I mean, he bought in, and we rolled. Like that start of our 2018-2019 season, we were 6-1 or 5-1, and we were rolling, and we were really tough to stop. And when we had a few issues at Christmas, losing a couple of key players, that hurt us. And in the playoffs, Denver had never seen so much double teams, and credit to Douglas College, Camosun College. They did such a good job of pinching down and sending a second man to defend him that we had not seen that, because he was really single teamed for the majority of the year, which is, I thought, was really surprising. And so as a coach, I wasn't ready for it either, I don't think, because he did get single coverage all the time, which led to those crazy games where he, against Okanagan College, he had like 51 points.
Yeah, it just went off.
Which is bananas in a 40-minute FIBA game, if you think about it. Like, he basically didn't miss for like 3 quarters.
Yeah.
So the impact that he's had is, I would say, like, there are lots of players that really admire him. And so because of that admiration, I get access to recruiting other players because of that, because of Denver. He's also, like I said, contributed to my coaching in terms of like camps. So he's helped outside. And it's great to have a Capilano Blue in the record books. With that kind of season, winning an All-Canadian award, I mean, that's a big deal.
It's a big accomplishment.
Big accomplishment. It doesn't, it's our first All-Canadian, and I don't know. I couldn't remember the last one. I know that I think it was 2008. Jean-Paul, I can't remember his name, but I think he was an All-Canadian.
So over a decade. Over
10, and so it's big for us, and all the credit to him for believing that I was right.
Took some persuasion from you to kind of show him, this is how you can succeed, this is what I think, and he bought in, and I guess, as they say, as cliche as it is, the rest is history, and he's in the record books for it.
Yeah, exactly.
You mentioned recruiting, looking at COVID and how it's kind of just put everything on hold post-secondary wise. You guys have Julian Duker coming in from Trinity Western, who was a redshirt last year, 6'3" wing. You've got a few others in the works as well. But how has COVID kind of changed your approach to recruiting, with no more in-person visits, with social distancing, self-isolation, no games to watch any longer? How has it kind of changed your approach to try and fill out this recruiting class and build towards years down the road on the recruiting trail?
The two major things that's changed would be a lot more FaceTime instead of face-to-face. So I've had a lot of FaceTime conversations. I've had a recruit pick up a FaceTime call while he was playing video games. That was hilarious.
Okay.
So there's a whole new avenue of like, unintentional comedy that's attached to FaceTime calls, like bad hair days, no shirt. I mean,
Nobody
nobody
cares
6
anymore.
o'clock at night and there's no shirt on. Like, well, put a shirt on. We're going to talk on FaceTime. Okay.
If someone's calling, at least put a shirt on. You only see from here up. So
I didn't shave today, but yeah, we would like a good shave, I think. But I there's that unintentional comedy piece of FaceTime, which I think, a lot of coaches could relate to. There's also, because you can't watch live games, like you said, there's no AAU games to watch. There's no high school games are over. You're really relying on Synergy. So thank goodness I have access to Synergy. Yeah. And so I've watched, because a lot of the recruiting that I've done this year has been transfer recruiting, and so watching players on Synergy, watching their clips and trying to watch full games as much as possible to get a feel for their strengths and their weaknesses, and then filtering out based on that scouting that you're doing on Synergy, who's going to be a fit and who's not. And that's the great part about recruiting college players, when they reach out to you, now it gives you the avenue to start exploring what kind of player they actually are. So I've been doing a lot more Synergy work than I had in the past, because usually I'd be recruiting a lot more high school players, but I personally thought that this past year in BC high school basketball was, I want to say that weak is the wrong word. It was a year where I didn't have players that I thought were fits for our program that could help us right away, because coming off of a bad year where our record, was not a great record, that makes it hard to recruit high school players, because high school players are really at the height of their ego.
That's true.
In British Columbia, like they've won a couple of games of provincials or provincial championship, the sky's the limit for them. Duke, North Carolina,
Blue Bloods.
Their heads are huge.
Thinking big.
Out of that, 100%. And so, if I'm a 5-13 coach, it's almost not even worth my time. Talking to these big time guys, right? They're big. They're big time.
They're thinking everything else but you.
100%. We are the last option. But one of the kids I did recruit signed at SFU, Hunter Cruz Dumont, excellent player. Would have took him in a heartbeat. Would have been a helpful guard right off the bat at the college level, even though he's rail thin and has some balance issues because of his lack of strength at this point in his career. But he's going to be a great player for Steve Hansen there at SFU, and so I'm happy that he went to a good place for him. He was the only high school player we really went after this year. So with that being said, this has been a year of the transfers, and that's, lots of transfers have reached out to me. I think COVID has, the third thing I would talk about with COVID, it has made a lot of players think about their lives, think about where they are in their life, and maybe that, where they're playing currently is not in a place that is, I guess, like appealing anymore, and they want to move on and have a fresh start. And I think it's the year of the fresh start. So there's lots of signings that I can report later on in the next couple of weeks as these players get registered into school. Once they get registered into school, I mean, they're coming. So there's no turning back.
Once they're registered, they can't turn around and say, no, I'm leaving. Exactly. But I think, like you said, COVID, I think it's given a lot of people perspective, like you said, on what they want to do with their life. And I don't know how else to phrase it, but it's also given them a bit of an out too, as in like, okay, this has happened.
That's a good point.
This is my chance to go do it. This is how I can get out and go somewhere new and start fresh and really expand myself, who I am, figure out more about who you are as a person, as a player, whatever. I think in reality, it's given them that out that they may have been looking forward didn't know they wanted until it was shoved in their face and everything shut down within like a week.
Totally. And I think, some of it has to do with, British Columbia being a safer landing spot. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think there is a bit of fear, right? Like,
That's true too. Yep.
with certain players, like, okay, well, where's one of the safer places to play? Like,
Yep.
so maybe this province might be able to get their season on. I mean, there could be
Mm-hmm.
all sorts of different things that factor into it.
That's
But
true.
this is one of those years where the transfers are just out there. They are
Yep.
out there. And it's been a very busy recruiting period. Like, at least I would say an hour to 2 hours a day. I'm talking to recruits, or texting with recruits, or FaceTime.
I guess that's a good thing, good problem to have too. If more of them are reaching out to you than you having to go
Well,
to
they have
them.
to. They have to
Exactly.
reach out to me. It's illegal. It's like it's
That's true
against the
too.
code.
Yeah.
It's against
That's
the
true.
code if I do it first. But
Yeah.
it's great that my reputation is still solid enough that players want to play for me, which is great.
I guess maybe I was referring to more of like recruiting in general. I guess the whole you can't reach out to transfers; they have to come to you. But even with high school too, like if you guys were going high school route and now in-person visits have stopped, I'm sure there's a lot of coaches that have high school athletes reaching out to them instead, which kind of saves a bit of time on your guys' end, right? And says this is, and it kind of shows a bit about the player too. Like they're willing to reach out to coaches and put their name out there, and they're not waiting for the Dukes or the North Carolinas to come to them, even if it's not going to happen. They're putting themselves out there to find a spot that fits them. And like you said too, with BC being a safer spot, out east being a safer spot, those places may get more of a season in. Ontario with the hotbed in Quebec, I have no idea. But then Vanier in Quebec went out and released their full schedule starting in October. I think that's a bit ambitious. I don't know if they're going to have a full season. Ontario's got nothing out yet. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a half year starting in January. I really wouldn't, because it seems like cases are spiking every week out here because people can't stay inside.
Yeah,
I don't know. I really don't know. But I think, like you said, people are have that bit of fear in them too, and they want to go maybe somewhere where they have a better chance of playing more like a full season than waiting till January and potentially losing a full year of eligibility. That's another issue too. I don't know if anybody's talked about that yet, but
I haven't heard anything from our league and from my athletic director about where our season is in terms of like when it could happen, how many games, all that. I haven't heard anything yet. But I'm recruiting and planning and scheduling like it was any other year, ordering tracksuits, getting team gear ordered, reversibles ordered for practice, bags, all that stuff. Business as usual for me, knowing that that anything can happen.
I think that's the way it's got to be until somebody tells you otherwise. It's just business as usual, because if it's not, then if you're thinking it's going to be a half year and you plan for a half year and you get a full season out of it, now you're behind the eight ball, and now you're in deep trouble.
Well, it's just a big. There's just a bit. You're gonna save like a big chunk of work for like your summer, and that's not. It's not gonna happen. It takes a lot. Like all the ordering. Like I think about last week, just talking with one of my distributors. Like we went back and forth like 40 times trying to figure out what the heck the order was. It's like, oh my gosh. So I mean, all these little things that go into coaching, like we've talked about, like trying to make people just better people. Like there's all these little tiny things that as a head coach you are responsible for, I believe. And just last week trying to get those practice jerseys, like the right number, the right sizes, right color. They're not, I don't want Adidas, I want Under Armour. It's not it's for whatever
something
reason
you want to do. It's not what you want to do a week before you figure out the season is going to start, because you plan for January instead of October or November. And you're not going to get a uniform or a tracksuit in a week. It's not going to turn around that quick.
Well, the way I look at it too, like we'd be having at least twice a week, we'd be having like an open gym, and then the other time we'd be having like a men's league game, in our off season. That's what our off seasons usually, typically have. And so for me, that's 6 hours of work, coaching those games, or at least just observing those games. I mean, in the off season, you don't want to press them too much, right? And so I usually go to a few games and watch and just observe and see how guys are coming along, and then tell them like, hey, like you're kind of looking the same, or I see you worked on this, or because you want to keep tabs and keep see how your guys are developing, right? Because you are their guide. You have to guide them through a bit of their off season. I mean, for us, this off season has looked a lot like just Zoom meetings, right? We've had the Zoom meetings. We've used Strava. So like anytime a guy does a run or a bike ride, that we've posted that on Strava. And we used for the month of May Home Court, which is the basketball app that Steve Nash helped develop. So, I mean, it's a great app. It's a great idea. It's just very hard if you don't have like the technology or the data or a tripod, or, it does have limitations in that regard, but the guys that had each part of that could use Home Court properly took advantage of it, I thought. And Strava for our team, I mean, half our team has been very good about posting their runs and their bike rides. So I feel like I'm still really connected to them, even though I haven't been able to see them in person.
Yeah, it's a big adjustment. Hopefully Nathan's working on his inbounds in the summer with his parents just to keep safe, to practice just in case nightmares come back again.
Well, I think with Nathan too, like I said, hey, do you want to be on the group chat still, in the off season, even though you're going to U of T? And he's like, yeah, no, he hasn't been participating at all. So I don't know what he's doing. I know that one of my assistants, Coach Ivan, he's been training him a little bit because he has like a breakfast club where he goes and they just do field work, right? Socially distance field work. And I know Nathan's been doing that. So if anything I can speak to about Nathan, it would be that he is probably really good at like running through ladders, agility drills, like lateral movement. Yeah, good footwork. So that's what I can speak to. At
least he's out working on something. I guess that's a good sign. Absolutely. It's good for U of T. I mean, he's working on something to get going there.
Well, they got a good player there. I think he has a chance to, maybe not this year, but in his fifth year, like be a starter for them. Like he's a legit 6'7", and he moves like. He can really move. Like he could play, I think, in a pinch a three position, because he can guard the three at that level. And then, but I think primarily he'll be a 4. But it'd be interesting. It'd be interesting to see how they use him.
It'll be this year, whatever they have will be an adjustment year for him to kind of get used to it. And like you said, I think when he goes into his 5th year, it'll be, or is he a 5th year this year? Fourth year this year. That's what I thought. Yeah. So 4th year this year, kind of adjustment, get used to the maybe a bit more size, a bit more quickness at the U Sports level, and then next year come in starter, impact player, like you said, and maybe even this year, even jump in earlier and surprise some people.
Yeah. Well, the thing about Nathan that he can, that endears him to any coach is that he competes defensively, right? And so because he does that, he gives himself an opportunity to play in a lot of different situations. Like I think at the U Sports level with all the pick and roll that they do, I think that he's able to switch and guard guards. Like now those guards are a lot quicker and faster and stronger at that level than what he's used to, but he could lock up guards at our level. So at that level, he at least could contain them and maybe as he gets faster and stronger, lock up some guards at that level too. I have tremendous faith that he will be at least a defensive impact player at that level.
Okay. A couple quick hit social media questions before I wrap it up here for you. All centered around the Pac West. Not surprised. All came in from people in the Pac West. Not surprised as well. Toughest coach to coach against?
It's a great question. I'm going to say the most frustrating coach to coach against. I think that's the way I'll answer it, because every coach in our league is very good. Yeah. And every week, if you're not prepared, they will use that against you. Okay. And they're all older than me, except for I think Scott from Camosun is, I think, a year younger or the same age as me. Okay. But he's been around longer, so he's got more experience than me. Okay. Yeah. So he's even, he's really hard to coach against too. But the top guy to coach against is Paul Eberhard, because you know what Paul's going to do. Like Paul's going to run flex. He's going to run dribble at backdoor out of timeouts. He's going to run the back screen play from the sideline out of bounds, late clock. Like, I know all his actions.
Yeah.
And he still gets them on me. Like, that's bananas, right? Like, I'll show
true.
the guys. I'm like, here's all their plays. Here, we're going to watch it on film. This is exactly what they're going to do in this timeout. This is exactly what they're going to do in this timeout. If they run this, doesn't matter. His guys are so good at executing. And
he gets
so
your
good.
guys running into themselves instead.
Exactly. And it's not even just that one play. It's like in that game, there was probably 3 of his classic out of timeout plays. He executed every one.
Mm-hmm.
And that drives me mental, because I'm like, as a coach, like you watch your guys as they're watching film and they're yawning or they're on their phone and you're like, oh my God, he's going to get that backdoor play again. Like, why? Do you guys like getting backdoored in such a simple action out of a timeout? Like, do you guys like that? Is it fun for you? They love it.
Apparently so.
So I think Paul is the most frustrating to coach against, because you know everything that he's going to do and he still does it. And that's a credit to him as excellent X and O's coach.
That's valid. Best dressed coach in the Pac West.
Well, I can't say myself.
Okay. Well, other than obviously, okay. So you would be one. Who would you put behind you as second?
Well, I think Scott.
Okay.
John from Camosa, and I thought he really stepped it up this year.
Yep.
And he's good. He's in the weight room.
Mm-hmm.
He's got like a little bit of flair like me. We got a bit of stylistic flair.
Mm-hmm.
We don't just not black suit, black tie, white shirt. Like, we're not like, Joe Envoldson, who's so George Clooney good looking, salt and pepper hair. He can just like roll out like with the basic suits and look amazing.
Yeah.
Me and Scott, we got to be creative, right?
Okay.
Just like Paul Eberhardt, he's got to be creative, right? Like, he's got to wear like the funny ties and the black
a little bit of personality to it.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, he's got like all these amazing ties. Like, Paul's got the best ties.
Mm-hmm.
I think Scott and I have the best style.
Okay.
And because Joe slightly resembles George Clooney from Profile, he wears the suits the best. Like, he's 6'7", right? He looks pretty good, right? Like, when he's sleeking along the sidelines, looking angry, like he does look, devilishly handsome as he's doing that. So
it's a combination almost. So it's Joe's profile with Paul's tie, and with your and Scott's style.
Yeah, if we could put all those people together. Okay. And then Matt. Oh, I forgot Matt. So like, Matt and Joe, like, they're having like a salt and pepper hair competition. Like, they are like, first of all, they have all their hair. I don't. Scott has his hair too. Me and Paul, we're losing it. Paul's lost his hair. I'm losing my hair. Obviously from seasons like last season. Mm-hmm. But with Joe and Matt, that's tough. Matt's a bit. I'm gonna give it to Matt. I forgot how. I think I forgot about Matt because I hate playing against VIU because they're so good.
They're tough too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so I've blocked them out of my mind. But no, Matt's probably the most stylish. He's more stylish than me and Scott.
Okay.
And because he's got the salt and pepper, 6'5", 6'6", sleek build like Joe. Okay. Who's not in the league anymore. I mean, he was so well dressed and tall that he went to UFV. Yeah. Matt. I think Matt now is the best dressed coach in our league. Yeah, okay. I give it to Matt.
All right.
Matt.
And if you had to pick one, I don't know if you can because the league is just chock full of talent. Toughest player to prepare for? I guess we'll narrow it down. We'll narrow it down to just last season, I guess.
I'm thinking here, and I would go with. That's a really tough question. I would say that. So Douglas was the best team last year by like a lot, and VIU is still really, really good.
Yeah, those two were fantastic.
And the actions that VIU run are harder to defend than the actions that Douglas ran. Okay. Douglas, their talent was so great that like they could actually butcher their execution
Okay.
and just bomb a three on your head.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's not really hard to guard, meaning
Yeah.
like you could have a great defensive possession against them
Mm-hmm.
and stop everything that they're doing, and then Courtney Anderson would just take one dribble and jack one, and it's like boom, he nails a shot. It's like, okay, well, what are we supposed to do there?
There's nothing you can
But
do.
with VIU, they have more cutting in their offense.
Okay.
So I think like the hardest player to prepare against is probably like the starting lineup of VIU, because every player is such a threat.
Mm-hmm.
Like Tyus Barfoot, Cedarberg, Landon, Cameron, and missing Brett Christensen.
Yep.
With those 5 players, you're really defending the concepts of their offense, which is difficult because in their offense, Barfoot gets the ball in really advantageous critical areas that like if you don't defend him first and foremost, he's just going to go to the basket and dunk on you.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's a bad thing to happen right away.
It's not a good start.
It's not a good start. So like that could happen at any time. So like you have to decide how you're going to guard Tyus. So what you hope for is that he catches the ball inside the key, inside the 3-point line. And then when he faces up, at least if he makes that shot, he's shooting a long 2.
Yeah.
Okay. So like we try to gap him and then face guard all the cutters. Now the problem with that is if you face guard and you overplay a backdoor cut, now you're giving up 3-point shooting, which, as you know, Cameron and Landon and Torrey and all those Brett, like all those guys can shoot threes. So that's bad too, right? So you might stop layups, but you're going to give up threes because they're going to make their threes eventually. VIU's concepts are the toughest to guard.
Okay.
And Langara's, I would say Langara's concepts are is tough to guard as well, but they didn't have the same threats in terms of their personnel that VIU did. So I would say like the VIU game plan is the hardest to put together because you have to decide what you're going to take away.
To pick your
point. It starts with Barfoot. Like it starts with, okay, well with Barfoot, how are you going to make sure he catches the ball in this area as opposed to that area? And that's really difficult because they run action to get him the ball in a certain area. Yeah.
It's a pick your poison. And like your top 100 list, you probably could have gone 10, 12 different players or concepts and made a case for it because the league is so full of talent that, again, goes under the radar outside of BC that you could have made a case for 10, 12, 15 guys, and I wouldn't have been able to dispute it at all.
True. Yeah, that's totally true.
But do want to thank you for taking time out of your day. I know it's been a lot of fun. I'm really excited to see the book as it progresses. I'm curious to see who you have atop your top 100 list as well. I think there's a lot of ways you can go with it. So, really appreciate you taking time out of the day, and all the best to you guys out west. And hopefully we get a full season. That's all I'm hoping for.
Me too. And Tyler, thank you for having me. I'm glad you finally, let me on the show. I've been bothering you for a long time. I appreciate you.
It's true.
Not blocking me on Twitter and allowing me to be a part of the podcast. I listened to it. I can't wait to hear the coach from Mount Royal coming on, Robin. Yeah. I can't wait to hear what she has to say. Maybe she'll talk some X's and O's. But another great basketball mind, and a big fan of the podcast. I'm going to keep listening.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Anytime you want to come back on, I'll try, and I promise I'll make it happen quicker than we did this one.
Okay. Sounds good, Tyler. Thank you.
Perfect.